Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest Alpha Female Workshop. I am so excited to bring another great artisan of imagery today. I'm Michaela Yan from Sony Alpha Universe and Alpha Female, and I'm really thrilled to be able to welcome you today to another great workshop and learning opportunity. Hopefully you had a chance to watch the video that we just rolled, or you have seen it before, so you're familiar with our Alpha Female Plus program. Many of you I know have applied, and good luck to those who have. And many of you are looking to apply, so I hope that today will also serve as inspiration for what you're going to do next for the grant. We have 9 grants remaining for the year, so still lots of opportunities. But the earlier you apply, the better it'll be. You'll be in the running for all of them. And you can also apply every month if you'd like with a different project. We have a few candidates who do that, and it's, I think, very useful both for them and really gives them an opportunity to put their best foot forward and be part of the selection process at all times. So I'm hoping you're going to learn a lot today. But before we bring on our next guest, who is artisan of imagery, Monica Sigmund, let's see a quick video of her. I hope you really enjoyed that. I love seeing our artisans at work, and it's really amazing to see the results of the work after you see them put so much energy and emotion into it. And you're going to see some really extraordinary work from our guest today. Monica Sigmund is one of our Alpha Female Creators in Residence. That's when I first met her. And I was impressed from the absolute beginning, from the application, the moment I opened up her video and I watched her presentation and read her application, and she became a creator in residence. And we just watched Monica blossom and just create a powerhouse of a business over the past couple of years. And just recently, she became a Sony Artisan of Imagery, which we're super proud of and really excited to have her in this great family of ours. So without further ado, let's see Monica. Hi, Monica.
Hi, Michaela. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good. You're going to get me all teary-eyed after that lovely introduction. Thank you.
Well, I do, want to gush about you, and I do it all the time. So I think people who watch us regularly know about this. Thank you so much for doing this today. We're so excited. You're right off the heels of a launch of a gallery, of a virtual gallery, Art of Motion, a project that you have worked on for quite some time with just absolutely extraordinary work. I could watch it all day long. In fact, I
Oh,
have
thanks.
stared at it many times. And it's just so exciting that you are going to be able to tell us about it, tell us sort of how you've gone about it and what you've done. And I'm hoping that our viewers will be able to take some great inspiration from what you're going to tell us today.
Me too. I hope that they leave chock full of ideas and, more importantly, executable action items that they can go and implement this and apply for the grant. And even if they don't get the grant, still pursue their project.
Absolutely. So I just want to remind everyone that you can ask questions live. We're here with you. Monica is ready to answer your questions. You can ask your questions on alphauniverse.com. Or you're watching this, you will see a little question mark over there, and you can do that, and the questions will come to us, and we'll be able to ask them as we go along. So Monica, let's go in. Let's start learning.
Perfect. Great. Thanks, Michaela. So for those of you who I haven't talked to yet, my name is Monica Sigmund, and I have a portrait studio with my husband, Michael Taylor, in Williamsburg, Virginia. We specialize in family and children's portraits, and I'm going to show you a couple images of the studio and give you a little sense of kind of the work that we do and that we've been known for. The studio turns 21 this summer, and we do have a retail space, which we're very fortunate to have. And this is kind of, as you walk into our space, you see a little gallery wall, and it's just a big flex space that we use, and our clients love it because they like to see kind of how everything is done. And this is the work that we've built our reputation on for the last 20 years, has been outdoor photography, large family groups. And we've been kind of become known for this in our area. And so what we found was that the general population can't really tell the difference always between good and great photography. And so what we wanted to do was add a new line aside from our outdoor portraits and introduce our studio portraits. So originally, I would say 95% of our work was outdoor location. And we introduced this line called Black Label about 3 years ago. And this actually started as a passion project. So I'm excited to show you the possibilities of what can happen with something like this. So we started showing this kind of work, and the community just loved it. And within 2 years, this became over half of our portrait work. So really quick growth, and people were able to call and ask for it by name. And again, this started as a passion project, something that I wanted to try, something different that I wanted to show. And we were able to have such success with it that it ended up becoming a permanent product line for us. So what I want to start with is, why do we need passion projects? What's the purpose of it? And for me, I think it's always a little hard to manage the business side of things and the art side of things. So for me, I found when we developed Black Label that I was starting to get in a little bit of a creative rut. And I wanted something to get me excited to shoot again. I wanted to create the work that I wanted to be known for down the line. And so to snap out of it, if you will, I felt like those location portraits I could do in my sleep. I knew them inside and out, and I was just getting a little bored. So I wanted to start thinking about, when I'm gone, what is the work that I want left here? What is it that I want people to think of when they hear my name? And I wanted to create something that made me excited to shoot again. So that means when you are thinking about a project like this, not only do you have to think of the purpose, but you should be thinking about the criteria. So how do we meet that purpose? So for me, I knew that I wanted something that was going to elevate our reputation and our brand. It needed to be in line with the brand that we had built for 20 years, but it also needed to be different enough that it wasn't confused with what we were already doing. So in this case, this studio line was so different than our outdoor work but the portraits themselves were consistent with each other, that they were clearly a thing, like a new thing. So that's really, really important. And most importantly, it needs to make you excited to shoot. It has to be something that maybe you haven't tried before, you've been wanting to try, something that you're really excited about. So when a passion project is executed properly, the result will be that you're going to have something so amazing that if it's a product line like Black Label was, people are going to have it. Or if it's like an exhibition, like I just did with the dancers that I'll be sharing with you, people have to see it. They need to be a part of it in some way. So it also elevates you from just a photographer to an artist in the mindset of your community and your clients, and hopefully your prospective clients. It's always good for people to see you being busy and creative. People want to do business with people who are busy and energized and happy, and they don't want to do business with people who are complaining on Facebook about how they're slow or have kind of an Eeyore attitude. You know, they want to be around people who are successful and excited. So when they see you working on a project, then that elevates not only your reputation, but it shows them that you're creative and you're busy, and they want to be around people like that. So, and also it will help you obviously increase your skill set. For me, I had not photographed dancers before, and it was something that I wanted to learn. So by the end of the project, my skill set was better. And usually when you finish one project, you've already started to peek into what might be piquing your curiosity for the next project. So we'll talk about that in a little bit too. And then obviously we want it to satisfy that need that you had to create in the first place. You should feel emotionally and creatively fulfilled and dead when you're done. I feel like when we launched the dance project finally, I felt like I had just birthed a child, and it was that wonderful exhausted feeling. And but that's how you should feel if it's done properly. So one of the things that, one of the questions I received on Instagram last week when I put out there, did anybody have anything they wanted me to cover, was how do we pick a topic and how do we find our subjects? So I want to start with choosing your subject matter. And so ask yourself, what is it that you've always wanted to do? Is there something that you've wanted to photograph that you've been too scared to try? For me, that was the dancers. And I think that the important thing here is to come to a moment of vulnerability, because we all want to be the experts in what we do. We want our clients to think we're the experts and we're the best at what we do. And so when we come to the table with something that we haven't done before, it feels a little uncomfortable. But that vulnerability makes you real, and it's the biggest opportunity for growth. If I were to do a passion project on something I already had the skill set to do, then it's not really a passion project, right? You're not really growing. You're not really stretching yourself. And when you don't do that, then I think your results are limited. So it is scary, but I think that it's much more rewarding. Once you think about what you're going to photograph, the next thing that you really have to take into account is what gear you're going to use. Obviously, we're Sony shooters here at the studio, and I'm always really happy to say that we shot Sony long before my affiliation with them began. And I think that's important to know, because I want people to realize that I believe in the gear, and it's not just because of the relationship that we have. For me, the A7R4 is the closest thing I can get to medium form possible. So when I wanted to create the Black Label portraits, I knew that these are going to be large, iconic statement pieces of art in people's homes. And so they had to be high enough resolution that they could be blown up large. I could crop in on them. I could do anything that I needed to do and still have that quality of file. I also knew that I needed that really high dynamic range from highlights to deep, deep shadows. As you saw in those studio portraits, they're rather dark. And so I needed to be able to make sure I was going to have the detail there. And the same thing happens with the dance project. I knew that I was going to need big files with lots of resolution. And the reason that I mention that is because sometimes a piece of gear can define your project altogether. So for instance, Michael is working on a project right now called Art 24, and this is 24 artists all photographed with the 24 millimeter 1.4 GM. Michael sees life in 24. It's always been his favorite perspective. And so now with this new lens, he's creating images like this that really let us see the artist in their environment. By using that 24 that's sharp edge to edge, we get a really great sense of who this person is, what their surroundings are like, what inspires them. And it really gives him the opportunity to tell a story by surrounding these artists with what they do. This is one of my favorites simply because I know the backstory, which is that this was photographed in a storage container. You can look in the back and see the folds of the steel wall there. So I mention that again because sometimes gear can be as much of the project as anything else. So before we get into all of the nitty-gritty about Art of Motion, I wanted to just stop for a second, Michaela, and see if there are any questions up to this point before we really get into it.
Yes, very good. I have one question that came in, and then we can go into the next section. And the question for you, Monica, is how do you keep passion projects going while balancing your paid client work?
Great question. So for me, we have really modeled our studio more around the boutique model, so lower volume, more time with each client. And part of the reason is that we love to build those relationships with our clients, but part of the reason is we want that extra time to be able to work on things like this, to be able to work on projects that excite us. I think you have to be disciplined and write it into your schedule and block schedule yourself so that you know you have a certain time every week committed to it. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in kind of the planning process. But I think it's just human nature. If we don't plan for things, if we don't carve out the time, then it won't happen. So it's got to go on your schedule just like any other appointment would.
Great answer. Thank you. Let's go into Art of Motion.
Okay, great. Okay, so Art of Motion. I think the first thing, like I mentioned to you, was that I wanted to learn how to photograph dancers. I don't come from the world of dance. I didn't dance myself. I have absolutely no experience in it. And so I really was starting from the beginning. And I mention that because I don't want anyone to be intimidated by starting something that they know nothing about. The key to it is research, just like anything else. So for me, I love Degas and I love his images of ballerinas. And so if you just Google Degas, this is what comes up when you click on the image tab. And so what I like about doing that in Google is that it gives an overview of the entire collection, and you can look at this and say, what are the common themes that I'm seeing here? What are the colors? Is there a theme of movement? Is there a theme of composition? Like, what is it that's attracting me to this work? Not because I want to copy it, but because I want to learn a jumping off point maybe, or see what I like, see what I don't like, and just see what attracts me to that kind of feeling. So besides research, I think it's super critical to start collecting inspiration. And so Pinterest is great for that. And here are just a couple of screenshots of my Pinterest boards for Art of Motion. So again, being new to the entire world of dance, this gave me an opportunity to collect poses that I like, collect colors or backgrounds, what have you. and use this as a jumping off point for discussion with the dancers. Again, I don't want to ever copy what somebody else is doing, because all you're doing then is being a mimic, and it will be short-lived for sure. But this is a great way to start conversations. And again, when you're learning, this is a nice way to kind of break down that barrier if you're a little bit intimidated working with a subject that you're not familiar with what they might do. And books. I just studied books and got some beautiful coffee table books. This was great because I could turn to a page and say, hey, what do you like? Is this something you can do? Get a sense of their skill set. They could flip through the book and mark it with different color Post-its of things that they wanted to try. I even got a book called Ballet for Dummies, just because it gave me the language and the basic knowledge of how to speak their language and what to say to them. So all of those things are really, really important as you lay the groundwork for what your topic is going to be, what your subject is going to be, and what you really want to do with the work. For me, not having danced, I really wanted to know what it felt like for a dancer. What does it feel like when they're dancing, when they're just lost in that movement? And how can I portray that in a portrait? How can I give an audience member the feeling of what it might be like, even just a fraction of what it would feel like to have that ability and that skill? So the next piece of that then becomes portfolio building. So before you can even approach the marketplace looking for subject matter, you have to have a couple of people in for sessions so that you have material to show the marketplace. And so we'll go through the steps exactly of how to build that portfolio out. But this is really, really important. And so you need to start collecting a body of work. And this comes back to the question, Michaela, that somebody just asked: how do you make the time for something like this? And I love this quote, because you don't make art out of good intentions. In other words, you have to schedule the time. So for instance, when we were building out the Black Label portrait line, I gave myself 12 weeks to do it. And every week for 12 weeks, I booked in a hair and makeup artist. And so I knew she was coming each week. I was paying her, and I had to find somebody to fill that slot, or else I was going to have to pay her for not doing anything. So, so for me, sometimes I had that person booked weeks in advance. Sometimes it may have been Monday, and I had the makeup artist on Thursday, and I didn't have anybody planned, and we'd go out to dinner, and then the hostess is lovely, and I would ask her to be my model on Thursday. So when you set that intention, when you figure out like, okay, I've got to do this, I am on the hook for doing this every single week, or whatever your schedule is, then you will be creative and you will find ways to pull people in, and to build those initial images that you need. This will help you in developing your style. And I always like to just take a minute here, because I think it's really common for photographers to see a webinar or go to a conference or watch somebody whose work they admire, and then they try and replicate that. They try and mimic that. And the problem with that is you will get bored so quickly. It may seem like it's successful at first, but really you will become so bored because it's not your passion. It's not what's exciting you. So while you may be inspired by another photographer's work or inspired by something you see, I really encourage you to just use that as a jumping off point and make it your own. Because remember, you want to create the work and the images that you want to become known for. The other thing that can happen during this really critical portfolio building is experimentation. So you may think you know what you want to shoot and what you want the finished work to look like, but I promise by the end of the passion project, your work will look completely different than it did at the beginning of your project. And that's good. That's the goal. That means you're growing and you're stretching. And so, about halfway through my project, a friend of mine suggested to me to play with the 85 millimeter 1.4 GM that I already had. And so, what I started doing was I shoot on a camera stand, so everything's pretty stable and fixed, and I can just go forward and talk to my subject, and the camera isn't moving, and it stays in place where I need it to. But for these images, I had the 85 on another R4 body, and I could walk around the set. I took it off the stand. I walked around the set. I just turned off the flash and just used the modeling light, and intentionally added a little bit of blur while I was shooting, a little bit of hand shake, if you will. And then went in post and added some grain, because of course we don't get grain on Sony files. So I had to add that in later. But it just gave me this really beautiful feeling of emotion and motion at the same time. And it turned out that these ended up being my very favorite images from the whole collection. I feel like these give us a better idea of what it feels like to be a dancer than the portraits that I was originally aiming to shoot. And then when you experiment, you can even come across another style. And so I think for me, this is kind of where my next project will be headed. So it's dance, but it's also a little bit of fashion. It's a little bit of couture. And so I don't want to be a fashion photographer, but I think there's an opportunity here. There's something very interesting to me here that I never would have discovered had it not been for this initial project, if that makes sense. And so I think it's really important to be thinking about what is the end game. Every project needs a purpose, and that's critical for when you're asking people to participate in your project. Everybody wants to know what it's for. What are you doing? Are you doing a book? Are you doing an exhibit? Like, what's the point? What's the purpose of the project? Everybody wants to know that. And it becomes especially important when you're asking people for money, because again, they want to know, how is this going to be used? What's the purpose of this project? And your purpose might also evolve through the project. So for me, the dancers, remember, it was for me to learn, it was for me to grow a new skill set. But then as I started working with all of these dancers, I started realizing during COVID, their studios were shut down. The studios were losing dancers, so they were losing revenue. The studios weren't able to do their recitals, so they were losing more revenue. Students were getting really depressed because they weren't able to be with their friends, and they were trying to do dance by Zoom, and it was just a very isolating experience for them. So the purpose then opened up, and it stopped being about me, and it started being about the dancers and the community, and how could we help these studios. And so we ended up adding a really nice fundraising piece to the exhibition. And so I think that it's okay for your purpose to evolve as you go through. So when you're doing something like applying for a grant, and this is why I love the Sony Alpha Female Plus program, because this is the perfect kind of thing that you could come to Sony and say, this is my passion project. This is why I think it's important. And then if you're selected, then you have $8,000 worth of cash and camera gear to make your project come to fruition. Not only that, but you have the Sony platform, the social media, all of the sharing that they're going to do on your behalf. So anybody who's nervous about applying, I would just say, listen, I almost didn't apply to the Creator in Residence program. It was 2 days before that I finally said, okay, I'm just going to give it a go. And what do you have to lose? So I think there's a couple things that can help you when you apply for a program like this. The first is, don't bury the lead. I think we all think our project is more important, and so we want to just talk and talk and talk. but you have to think how many applications they're reading and how many videos they're watching. So you've just got to keep it simple and speak from the heart and get right to the purpose of why you want to do this project, why it's important. And ask yourself, would you give money to this person? Would you think that this is important? What are the questions that you would have that you would need answered before you could do that? You have to be able to demonstrate your skill set. Remember, Sony is going to be promoting this project across all of their social media platforms. So they want to know not only do you have a great idea, but you've got some photography chops. So they are going to want to see that when you fill out your Alpha Universe profile, and make sure that your images are really putting your best foot forward and showing them that they would be proud to show off your work. Stay in the now. And by that, I mean, a lot of us feel compelled to give our whole history, how we started in photography, we got our first camera when the first grade, whatever, it doesn't matter. They just want to know what you're doing now and why it's important, why they should choose you. And remember, art is subjective. So just because if you're not selected, just because you're not chosen, doesn't mean that your project isn't worthy. It just means it's not right at this time for what they're looking for. But don't give up on it, because you're going to have beautiful byproducts from whatever passion project you choose. And most often, they will be completely different than what you intended for them to be, what you thought you were going to get out of the project to start with. So, so this is a nice little chance to take a break really quick for questions, Michaela. I'm sure people have more questions about the grant program, and then we can talk a little bit more about implementation.
Yes, nicely done about the advice. I think that's all very much on point. And I do have a couple of questions about that, but just going slightly back to your project specifically, we have a question here from Catherine. Can you go over how to successfully make a budget for a project? Specifically, if you don't know the cost of traveling. Let's assume there's no traveling. How would you go about making a budget?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And when we did that here for when I had to sit down and make my application for Creator in Residence, I kind of just needed to think about every last detail, like anything I could possibly need. So was it lighting gear? Was it studio rental? Is it costuming? Is it props? And you have to do your homework. You're going to have to make calls and do research and get all of those figures together, because again, nobody wants to write a blank check. If you think about when you donate to a charitable cause, we all feel a little better knowing exactly what the money went for. Like if you're donating to Habitat for Humanity, you want to know that that check that you wrote bought the kitchen sink, or it bought the roof, or whatever it is. And so, so think about that in terms of put yourself in the mindset of Sony, and what is that money going for? So really itemize out anything that you are going to need to acquire to make this project happen, from beginning to photographing to the final product. What is that final product? Is it an exhibition? So will you need rental space? Will you need printing? Is it finished portraits for a nonprofit? What size are those portraits? How are they going to be displayed? And really do your homework. And it is a lot of legwork, but the more detailed you can be, I think the better off people feel about giving money for it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And also I would mention that for the Alpha Female Plus grant application, you don't need a super detailed budget. You just need to show us that you know what you're doing and you have a plan in place on how to spend the grant in order to get to the outcome that you're looking for. So certainly not super low pressure, but also not super high pressure. So definitely go for it. Speaking of which, a lot of people who want to apply but have not applied yet cite fear of failing as their number one reason why they're not applying. So they just keep trying to perfect that application, or trying to find sort of the right idea that they need to apply with. So what would
Right.
you say to people? How do you find the confidence? And you spoke about how you applied 2 days before the deadline. So what was your process for going for it?
I can totally relate to anybody who feels nervous or feels like the chances are so slim that why bother. Like I said, I didn't decide to apply until 2 days before the deadline. But again, it goes back to, so what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is they'll say no, but you will have had that experience of writing a grant application, something that you can take with you going forward. You will have that experience of formulating an idea from beginning to end. So there's really nothing to lose. And I think also that when we start to feel fear or insecurity, it's usually because we're too focused on ourselves. So focus on what that project can do for somebody else. So if you're working with a nonprofit or trying to bring attention to an underrepresented cause, take yourself out of that equation. You don't have the time to be selfish and be worried about your own ego. Your job is that you have this gift that can impact somebody else. And so therefore you have to get in front of that fear and do whatever it is you need to do so that you have the option of helping them. So take yourself out of it and get back to why you're doing it.
Great answer. And the last question for this section, and then we can continue. You had a really great personal video. It wasn't super complicated or anything, but it was very clear in what you wanted to achieve, and you put yourself forward in a great manner. What advice would you have for people when they're recording the personal video? Because that has been another hang up for a lot of people in the process. They know most photographers don't want to be in front of the camera. They want to be behind it.
Exactly. And I was the same way. And I think I recorded mine like 52 times. So learn from my mistake in that, I think I ended up using the second or third one that I shot. So really be prepared, figure out, like, you don't have that much time. Michaela, is it still just a minute that they have for their recording? Okay. So, so you don't have that much time. So you have enough time to probably like introduce yourself and get 3 points across why your project is important, what impact it could have on somebody, and why they need to choose you. And that's it. And so my recommendation would be is to really outline those 3 things, bullet points on an index card, and then time it out. You've got 12 seconds for each one. And but don't memorize it, because then it comes off too canned, and just get to the heart of what you're doing and why you're doing it. And you obviously believe in it, or you wouldn't be applying. And so let your excitement come through, let your real personality come through. You don't have to be somebody else or be what you think Sony is looking for. They want real people, and they want people who are excited about what they're doing. And if you're excited, other people get excited. So just let that come through, be a little spontaneous, don't feel like it has to be over rehearsed, and just be yourself.
Yeah, perfect. That's perfect advice. We love watching the videos that that are submitted for the grant. It's always really nice to get to know people and to meet them, and we enjoyed that very much. So thank you. Let's go to the next section.
Okay, great. So we are going to talk about implementation and promotion. So you have this great idea, you've started a portfolio build, like what happens now? Now what? How do you get people to participate in your project? How do you get people to be aware of your project? So Art of Motion is what I called the dance project, and this became the banner that we used for all of our social media. we had an application process. I think applications are great because it adds some legitimacy and value to what you're doing. It tells people that you're serious. This isn't something just fly by night. And we had a page built out on our website that showed the project, why I was doing it. It's very, again, putting myself out there with a little bit of vulnerability to say, I don't know how to do this and I want to learn how to do it. And so who wants to help me? So I think that's really important. And I think that the more you can brand it from the get-go, have the name in place, have the typeset, the font, the logo in place, and the more consistent that you are with that across all of your social media channels, your email communications, all of that, then the more legitimate it looks and feels. Remember, photographers, have had a questionable reputation sometimes in the past about why they want to photograph people or why they're asking models to come in the studio. So I think it's really important that we add as much legitimacy to our project right out of the gate as possible. And a name and a brand and a logo really help with that. So you can see by these slides, these are the images that we put out that we got during our portfolio build. And then I could use these for advertising for that application. And again, applications are really, really good because it makes sure that people who are submitting their application are also serious about the project. You want people who are like-minded and not just looking for a freebie. So that really helped us. And then using the inspiration boards that I was showing you guys earlier, I could build out these mood boards. And this is something that I used quite a lot in the beginning of the project. And then I didn't really use it towards the end because by that point I knew more of what I was looking for and could vocalize that better. But in the beginning particularly, this was really helpful because I could show this to the dancers and say, okay, like I'm thinking about this kind of a look or this kind of a look. And it was a great visual for them to understand the clothing that I wanted them to bring, the colors I was going to work with, and that kind of thing. And then if a client does send images of their own, like you can see on the bottom of the third column there, that's an image that the client sent of an outfit that she wanted to use. So the more detailed you build all of this out, again, the more legitimate that you appear, right? Like we're just adding value, we're adding legitimacy, we're showing people that we are real artists with real intentions in this project. Artists have a reputation for being a little bit flighty or not as business-minded. And so the more you can do these things, the more impressed they are, the higher quality of subjects that will apply, and the better your finished product will be. So then when you're getting ready to launch, whether it's the new product line, whether it's an exhibition like we did, whatever it is, these are a couple tips that I think are really important. So does it have a name? Is the work recognizable and consistent? So did you shoot enough of the same looking things that it will be recognizable once you start promoting it? Is it different than what you already have shown out in the marketplace, what you already have in your studio, or something else, another cause that you've promoted, another project that you've done? It's got to be different enough that they see the difference. And remember, your marketplace is not other photographers. It's the general community. So can they discern the difference? And do you have enough images to go to marketplace with? Because I think one of the things that photographers do is we get really excited about something that we shoot, and then right away we show it on social media. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, we have another session, and then we get really excited about that one and we put it on social media. And the problem is we're not showing enough consistency. And so each of these things looks like a one-off. And so my recommendation is to, as hard as it is to sit on those images, maybe show behind the scenes and your stories or what have you, but sit on the images until you have enough so that you can build out over the weeks an Instagram feed or a website that looks like this. So you can take one look at the feed and you know, okay, she's photographing dancers. Like, this is a thing, this is legitimate, she's a dance photographer. And so you want to make sure you have enough images. And if not, you can't launch yet. And it's really hard because we're so excited about what we're doing, but take it from me, the more prepared you are on the front end, the happier you'll be with your results on the back end. So, so let me just show you now when we came to market with the exhibition. Because of COVID, we figured out pretty early that we weren't going to be able to do a print exhibition, and so we wanted to do something virtual. And so we had a video made for us that kind of launched it, that brought it to the public and said, this is what this has all been for, this is what's coming, and you should get really excited. So I'd love to show that to you now. So that's how we announced the exhibition, and we put that on social media. We emailed it to all of our clients. And again, I think the production value of something like that just elevates the entire project. And remember, when we think about what's the purpose, what's the end game, people want to know. And so when I was saying it's a virtual exhibition, it's a virtual exhibition, well, nobody had ever seen anything like that, so nobody really knew what to expect. And so we just wanted to build this up for them to understand how incredible it was going to be. So what I want to do now is just show you a really quick walkthrough of what the exhibition looks like. This is just a quick little walkthrough to see how the clients see it, how the community sees it. And so you come in, there's the artist statement, again, our logo, our brand, all of the images are framed and hanging on the wall with a very intentional design. There's a little alcove here where we show another group. And in fact, this exhibition ended up being 2 stories, because if you remember those black and whites that I was talking about earlier, they became a floor of themselves. So that's floor 2. And so I think the community was really impressed. Again, they hadn't never seen anything like this before. And I would just love for you guys to go and check it out. It's still live, and that's the website that you can go to. And there's 81 portraits of 24 dancers. And I would just love for you guys to check it out, and I'd love to hear your feedback on that. So I want to just leave you with one quote before I finish up my part of the program. And this is something that I love so much because, again, that process of being vulnerable and that fear of rejection and all of those things that are the artist's worst enemy, this always makes me feel better. So go and make interesting mistakes. Make amazing mistakes, make glorious and fantastic mistakes, break rules. Leave the world more interesting for you having been here. Make good art. And that's what I have.
And you certainly follow that and making good art. Thank you. That was amazing. We have questions now, so let's
Great.
dive in. Um, First of all, about the exhibition, a lot of people feel the same way I feel, which is like that is just absolutely amazing. It feels like the real thing. So congratulations again on getting that done, Monica. It's just truly
Thank
outstanding.
you.
Our friend Brooke is asking, she says the platform is gorgeous. She'd love to set up a virtual exhibition for work. Did you hire out to a platform that creates virtual exhibitions, or was it created in-house through your own website because it looks so seamless and inspirational?
Super. And thanks for that feedback, especially coming from Brooke. That makes me feel really happy. Surprisingly, there's not a lot of software out there. We did quite a lot of research to find something that was really to the level that we wanted. And I'm happy to share that. If somebody has that question, wants to DM me, I can send them the link to that software. But the software it's a little clunky. It's built in Europe, so we had to make some adjustments to it, just working with their tech team. But then you can embed it in your website, so it does look seamless. In fact, what we're going to do, you buy different templates. So that was a template option. If you think about a website builder, you have several different templates that you can pre-purchase and populate. So we're going to buy another template that's a little smaller, not as many rooms, and build that into our homepage. So when you come to our studio website, you'll go through a gallery of family portraits, because we want to set the tone that family portraits are the most valuable art you'll ever own. So it can be very seamless, and all things considered, it's a relatively easy process to work through. You drop in your assets, which are all of your images or any text that you want printed on the wall. And then in the software, you add the frame, and in the software, you place it on the wall, and you're good to go. Like I said, we had some tweaks, certainly, but well worth the investment of time to do it, because I think people haven't seen anything like it.
Perfect. Related to the models, what kind of releases did you have for the models, and did you pay the models to participate?
Great. So yes, we did have model releases signed by everybody. We were very upfront about that. And in fact, they signed that with their application. So they knew right up front what these images, they didn't know how they were going to be used exactly, but we told them they could be used for marketing, on social media, the finished project, any and all of the above, and that was a condition of them being chosen, was that they had to agree to that. So my recommendation, my advice is always to have that model release signed before you spend any time with them designing the shoot, certainly before the shoot. You want to make sure that you guys are on the same page with that. I forgot, Michaela, was there a second part to that question?
Yes, did you pay the models?
Oh, did we pay the models? Thank you. So we did not pay the models. We gave them a portrait credit to our studio that they could use. The credit was the equivalent of an 8x10 portrait, or they could use that towards a larger portrait or a coffee table book or anything of their choosing. I wanted very much that I wanted people to be able to leave with something and not have to spend money. I didn't want this to appear like any kind of a bait and switch, or the project wasn't sincere. It was just a way to try and build money during COVID or anything like that. So I wanted them to be able to leave with something. Everybody did end up purchasing something. Some bought a little, some bought a lot. And those are beautiful byproducts, but certainly wasn't the purpose of the project. I think there are other ways that you can do that if you are trying to drum up some cash flow. There's invitationals, there's model calls, all kinds of other things that we could do a million programs on. But I think that it's very nice to compensate them somehow and have them understand the dollar value of what they're getting. So again, in our application, it would say they're getting the session fee waived, which was $600, and then they're getting the portrait credit, and for a total of this. And so they knew, the caliber of the work that they were entering into.
That makes sense. I got a question in here from Amy, and I just want to clarify a couple of things. First of all, obviously, this is the type of project you don't get done with the Alpha Female Plus grant and in that time period specifically. So it's a much larger thing that Monica did. It took a long time. It's a professional type of endeavor. So I want to clarify that that's not related to the grant itself. So that's one thing I want to tell Amy. But thinking about it, I think there's a way you could adapt something like this for the Alpha Female Plus grant, given that you have about 4 to 5 weeks to finish a project. And typically, what we've done is a couple of our winners in the past have begun Alpha Female Plus application, have projects after they won the grants with a handful of photos from the set that they wanted to shoot. So the full set would take months to shoot, but they were able to shoot 5 in the period that they had for the project, so they could get it off the ground. So is that like one of the ways in which you would adapt a project like that?
Absolutely. So that whole section we talked about with portfolio build and gathering the images I was going to then use for marketing the project and for promoting the application process. That's exactly what I would do beforehand and use those images for the application also. So now you have a consistency of imagery to show Sony to say, this is the caliber of work that I'm doing. This is, we're all visual people. We're all in this business because we're visual. So I think that would be an advantage even to be able to come to the table with, this is what I envision the final project looking like. Here's a taste of it. This is the initial portfolio build that I'm going to use to market it and to solicit other subjects. I think that would be fantastic. And then you can hit the ground running when you receive the grant, that all you're doing now is just implementing all of that. And so I think that would be the perfect way to do it.
Yes, highly encourage people to do that. We have another great question here, following along the same lines of how do you get a project like this done? How large a support team did you have? Did you have a stylist, hair and makeup? Did you have a videographer? Who were the people involved in creating this?
Yes, perfect. So again, it'll be different depending on your project. For the Black Label portrait line, when I was building the portfolio out for that, I did hire a hair and makeup artist. Like I said, I booked her in once a week for 12 weeks, which is why I was super motivated to get somebody in the studio every week because I was paying her. For the dancers, they're so used to doing their own hair and makeup that I was able to get away with not using a hair and makeup artist and keep my costs down. So for this particular project, it was myself, and then I have an assistant here at the studio who's amazing, Liam, and so he helped me on set as well as some of those software tweaks that we were talking about with the virtual exhibition. I didn't have a stylist, again, with the dancers. They were able to do that. I was able to do that. And again, with a passion project, I think don't let it be so clinical. Don't let so many hands get involved that you are removing yourself from the project and you're not getting enough of your spin on it or your flavor or your passion to it. So I think that's really important. You definitely need people to help with some of the logistics maybe so that your mind and energy and time can be freed up with the creative process. But don't hide behind some of that support team, because I will tell you, as a business owner, I did that for a long time. I was too intimidated by my clients. And so I hired somebody to do the phones. I hired somebody to do the sales appointments. And the only time I saw them was during the session. And that really worked to my detriment. And it took me a while to figure out that the missing component was that relationship. And I think anytime that we get scared, we try and hide behind something. And so I would encourage you to make sure that your impact is felt as much as possible on the project.
Makes it more fun too. So I have I have a last question, final question for you. Do you have your next fashion project figured out?
Oh, that is the million dollar question. Whoever asked that should get a gold star because that is certainly what everybody has been asking. And I don't know yet. This one definitely took a lot longer than I thought. It evolved so much more than I thought. Part of that was COVID, part of it was trying to do it around a busy holiday schedule at the studio. Um, so I am very interested in those last couple of images I showed you where they're starting to become a little bit more fashiony. I'm interested in that. But there's some other things totally different that I'm mulling around also. So we'll see. Stay tuned. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Well, we're very excited. Can't wait to see it. And I'm sure that we'll talk about this again at some point once your next fashion project is done.
Great.
Thank you so much, Monica. You've been
Oh,
wonderful as
thank you.
always, a fountain of knowledge. Thank you for sharing that with our community, whom we love very much. They should definitely stay in touch with you because you do share a lot of yourself on your channels, and you're always willing to answer questions. So for everyone who's
Yeah.
watching, if you want to follow Monica, you know where to find her: Instagram, Monica Sigmund, and Sigmund Taylor, two Instagram
Yep.
accounts. You can also find her on Facebook. You can find her in Clubhouse. Her website, obviously, go and visit Slash Motion, the exhibition while it's still up. So lots of ways to keep in touch with you, Monica, and I'm sure a lot of people will want to do that. So thank you so much again for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for the invitation. And I just want people to go for it. There's absolutely nothing to lose, so much to gain, not just in the project, but in the grant. Just go for it. You have nothing to lose. Just try.
Absolutely. Nothing to lose. That's right. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking another workshop. We hope it was useful and interesting and exciting. And hopefully that has given you some inspiration. We have a couple of reminders for you. We have 9 grants left. We also have a challenge on Instagram. So go follow at Sony Alpha Female on Instagram and you'll see what it's about. This month is about portrait photography. So that you can work in tandem with Nasra, our latest contestant winner. And follow us on Facebook and definitely join the Facebook group if you haven't. We have an absolutely extraordinary community there with amazing people willing to share advice and inspiration and constructive criticism if you need it, and really, really happy to help each other, which is something that we really love. So next application is due, as you can see here, August 1st. You have a little bit of time, so get on it. The photo contest entry is due on August 8th, so you have plenty of time to do something for that and enter the contest. And our next workshop is going to be next month with Artisan of Imagery, India Beal. So lots more to come. Thank you again, Monica. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, Michaela. Thanks, everybody.